alarm bells were ringing, you know, and this was compounding on just being misaligned with the gigs that were being chosen for me, having your friends at things. I mean, even the one where we went to Northwest, there was only one hotel room available, which was mine, and there were like 12 people, you know. And I also think that, especially at the time in a South African context, it was very difficult to place a girl who just wanted to be a dreamy little musician and like, just like on a
Disney.
it's just like, do you exist in the space that you're talking about? Can anyone find you? Any little thing. I've performed for 2 people.
Okay.
I've performed at an event where no one showed up, but my 3 friends were there, and I performed it for them like they've never seen it before. And I get that system is much bigger than us, but you need to take charge where you can take charge, to the point where you know that the person handling your money is someone you absolutely trust. Because you have transparency. But there were things like at that event where I arrive with my 3 friends and my friends can't get in because he's filled up my guest list. By the time I'm inside, he's drank my stock. My rider. He says he'll replace it. And it was like...
And you're live on Dead Radio.
Welcome to another very special episode of Dead Radio with your boy Ini. And today we have another special guest. Because we only deal with special guests. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we'll go into her life story and try and extract as many jewels as we possibly can for you guys. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Naye Ayla. My real name is Naye Manenza. I am a musician, an all-round multidisciplinary creative, a behavioral therapist, and I also do events management.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I am from Joburg. I'm a city girl.
Joburg.
I'm a city girl.
Okay.
From Eastern Cape, though, in Port Alfred.
Okay.
That's where my grand still is now.
Okay.
But I grew up in Joburg.
Your whole life, basically.
Born and bred. Major city girl. I've moved around Joburg a lot, so I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically exactly where from. Yeah.
Okay. What type of kid were you? Have you always been like a creative kid? Where was that seed planted?
I think it's just always been like that. Like, I have some memory problems. Like, I don't have a very clear memory of my childhood, but I do know and remember that I've always been very artistic. Okay. And at the core of my personality and my interests, there's been art, and movement. I did dancing, gymnastics. I used to write songs when I was like 5 years old about ponies and shit. Major production, writing plays.
So you've always been
shows.
In the arts
Yeah.
As a kid?
Yeah.
Did anyone fan that flame as a kid?
Everyone in my life.
Okay.
I've never really experienced resistance.
Okay.
About that thing about me. Everyone's always sort of been like, you're very artistic, but it wasn't a push. It was like an acceptance.
Okay.
But there wasn't anyone else who was artistic before me.
Okay.
And so it wasn't like there was breeding ground
for that.
It had to come from within. But I've always had support.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always been like, okay.
And then during high school, did that increase? Like that passion, that flame, did it like grow even bigger?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I've always been in things like musicals and plays. When I was in primary school.
So you've never been shy? You've never been a shy person?
Not really. Yeah. I do fluctuate. Between extrovertedness and
introvert.
I need to recharge.
Okay.
So I think that's when I come off as more morose and quiet. But I'm not necessarily quiet. Like, I'm very expressive and very creative, and I love to be involved in stuff like that. So I always did major productions and stuff. I mean, in primary school, I was Aladdin.
Oh, crazy. Crazy.
Pretty wild.
What? Did they
they couldn't find any boys that could like sing.
Are you serious?
And they were like, please be Aladdin. And I was like, okay.
You guys
I don't know if it's because I look like a boy. I don't know what it was, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Dope.
So that's always been my vibe.
Okay. And then at the end of your high school career, what was your vision? Where were you trying to go? What were you trying to pursue in terms of like a career?
You know, I do think it is a lot to expect an 18-year-old to know what they want to do with their lives.
I do feel that is a very important point that we need to focus on. Like, why does the world expect
Why do you have to know?
an 18-year-old
Why do you have to have
it figured out?
Answer? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so even with that, I think that a lot of the things I've done, although I'm happy with my journey, were probably influenced by people that I wanted to make happy and proud, my family. I don't think at 18, outside of the fact that I've always known that I want to be an artist, I don't think when I left high school I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I knew I just had to go to Varsity, and everyone had always told me, oh, you're so smart, you're such a good listener, oh, you're so this and that, and I did psychology, you know, because everyone was like, yeah, this is you. I was like, okay, I guess, you know, and so
the world kind of like funneled you in that direction.
In a sense,
kind of,
you know, I feel like I just went with the wind. I was like, okay, you guys think I can do this? I'm gonna do it. My family was they wanted me to be a lawyer. But luckily I was able to kind of stand up to them about that and just be like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why?
Why would I be a lawyer?
But then I did psych. But throughout my psych degree, I was working full-time as a musician. I also did some work as an actress. And so I never left the creativity out of the process. In fact, it's like I was living a double life. You know, I would leave school, go to studio, sleep in studio, go back to school. And if I was filming, then I'd be filming the whole day and I wouldn't go to school, and I'd catch up when I go back to school. Just kind of like multitasking that life.
Why did you pick music over acting?
I think music was always the first
love,
innate thing, you know. I discovered as I got older that I can act, and I'm really good at it. Like I did theater at school. And so that came over time. When I was in grade 12, we did like a cold audition for Muvhango, and cool, that was done, and it was it. In first year, I got a call back just being like, hey, we have this character, we'd really like for you to play it.
On Muvhango?
On Muvhango. Yeah. But it was only like a week. I filmed like twice, and then it was done. The character was gone, her name was Katleho. I think I had like 2 episodes or something.
But that's crazy though.
But 2 years later, I was called back to play like an actual character named Tando.
On the same show? That's crazy. So you played 2 different characters at 2 different times on the same show.
Yeah. I guess they figured like Katleho was so insignificant. No one would remember that. I mean, I barely remember that character. So, yeah.
And
but music, all in all,
was the thing.
Was still happening, you know, throughout all of these other...
So when do you start recording music? Like, when does that process, like actually getting into a studio, putting your vocals on the mic, and that whole process, when does that start?
The first time I recorded was when I was 14. I used to run around with a crew that my cousin was a part of from the East Rand. And, you know, we'd record songs where there'd be like 7 people on a song. You know, it was like Young Money.
Super hip-hop. Super hip-hop.
And when I tell you, the first few years of my career was so hip-hop. Like, you know, just the lifestyle, the way we made music, the way we interacted with the industry. That was my introduction to the industry. It was super hip-hop. We were groups. It would be here and there. You're in studio with 1 million people. You're in bendos. You're in a compound. Like, niggas everywhere, you know? And so that's how it started.
Is that why on your Spotify bio it says closeted rapper? It comes from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did discover that I enjoyed like rapping in some sense at the time, and even now there are times where I'll find myself like it's not like hardcore rap. It's like a genre type vibe, you know, like a very talking, spoken word kind of vibe. I do like doing that here and there. But as I've grown up, I've become like softer and more romantic and super R&B and super fantasy girl, you know. So I'm not so much that anymore, but I do like to exercise that muscle. Yeah.
How are you balancing the acting, school, studying psychology, which I'm sure needs you to be super tapped in, like super focused, and also the music? How are you balancing all of these things at the same time?
I failed one of my years.
Makes sense.
But not because I couldn't do it. Like, I did get to a point where I'd been balancing for like 2 years. And I was a bit of an overachiever at school as well. And so Varsity humbles overachievers.
Oh no, it will humble you. It'll be like, oh, you think you can't study? Or you think you can study the night before? Okay.
We'll see about it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
And it was a lot. And so I did get to the point. I also just think that life was a little bit hard. Like there was a lot happening in my personal life. Things were changing at home. Finances were rough. And I was tired. So I just stopped going. You know, I didn't really fail. There was just no attendance, no marks. I didn't go to classes. I just like
removed yourself.
I just stopped. I was like, I'm not going, you know? And so
is
I
that
was
when
balanced.
The music took more of a forefront?
No, you know, it's never been that music took precedence over school. I continuously balance those two worlds. I need to finish school and I need to finish well. And I need to keep pushing my music because I'm trying to break into this industry. I'm trying to understand this space. And so I think also sometimes if you have that feeling that you want to make both things work, I think it's important to listen to that feeling. Often we're advised that, you know, pick what's the bigger passion. You know, do you really love it? Prove you love music. No, I love music, but and another thing, as a musician, I've been discovering that I just have so many interests, and I want to be a musician with a business and something, and a musician. I might study again. You know, there's just so much in the world that when you're younger, you don't think you're gonna care about. And so I think that my interest in keeping both those things quite high in my list of priorities served me well. And me kind of doing badly that year in school was just because the pressure was a lot. And I just couldn't handle it. And so I came back the next year to come do that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I've always just tried to like kick ass at both.
Okay. So you're recording music. Are you putting the music out at all?
So I started recording when I was 14, and I never put anything out. They were always dreams, you know. Someone would be like, "Oh, we're recording this. Let's go shoot a music video. You just need to bring in 500 rand." I'd bring in a 500 rand. We'd shoot a video. Video would never come out. We're in studio. We record an amazing track. I bring it home for my whole family. My family's like, "When are you guys?"
When are you putting this out?
Yeah, he says soon, and it never comes out. And then from that group, there were two of us who were like little youngins. Me and Lwazi, who at the time was known as K-Wiz. And he was learning to produce as well. But we were the babies. Everyone was like 18, 19. And they knew that we were talented, but I don't think they took us that seriously.
You guys are kids.
The babies.
Like yours.
So in first year, we reconnected and we started working closely together. I would go from school to Brixton and we just like work in that studio all night. And he was my very first producer, and he's kind of the person that helped get myself out there, because I always felt that my way of self-expression was difficult to translate. And for people to understand, and when I'd be like, "Oh, I hear a gung gung gung," you know, people be like, "But what is that? What is that sound?" But he just got me, you know. And I've never been someone that kind of follows the blueprint. The rhythms that I hear in my head are kind of off counts, off beats, and things like that. And so it was very difficult to find people who didn't think I just didn't know music.
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
like, okay, let's see where that goes.
Yeah.
And he was very like that. And we made my first, technically my second EP, but my first official EP that wasn't on, that wasn't on Spotify.
Okay.
And and that EP had Youngster on it because
Yeah,
Youngster
on fire, right?
Yeah.
I was like, but he's not labeled as a feature on the song. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
That period, I was also so different from today where there's like so much more information.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things we didn't do right.
Yeah.
So if you listen to it on one DSP, everything might be correctly labeled.
Okay,
but on
on
another
another-
things, because I don't even remember how we uploaded that, but I think we did each upload ourselves personally, like on Spotify, 1, 2, 3, 8 songs sent. On this, and there's a lot that we didn't get right. We didn't understand royalties, copyright, labeling things correctly, how those are going to show up in DSPs. So that is possible, that is the case.
How did that feature even happen? Like for an up and coming artist, how do you get Youngster CPT on a song?
Youngster was recording at the studio.
Oh, in
with,
Brixton?
with Lwazi.
Oh,
yeah, and he was
crazy.
new to Joburg at the time. He just
Okay.
come down from Cape Town, but his buzz was up. You know, people were like, who's this Youngster person? And he recorded there, and Lwazi played him that song, and he was like, "That's so fly."
Let me jump on.
Yeah,
That's so
and
dope.
Lwazi was like,
That's so
Youngster
dope of
jumped
him.
on your song, and I was like, that's crazy,
Damn.
And so I think it was moments like that where I was affirmed in my own process that like there's a blueprint that works, and you will make a song that is palatable and great. But I want to be an artist. I want to be a creator of things. I want to provide food for thought. I want someone to be curious about how I came to a decision,
Yeah, even when I listen to that project, I feel like it's very alternative.
Oh, it was so alternative, and it was so hip-hop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm such a different person now.
I can sense like
808s,
of,
like really deep sub basses and like very rappy melodies as well. Like it was very like that. Like I was very hip hop R&B at the time, and I was very submerged in the hip hop community. I was hanging around a lot of rappers. I was in studio with a lot of males. It was just that world, and that's what it seemed like the industry was to me at the time.
A boys club.
It's a boys club. It's there's a way you need to be. You need to be the girl that the guys think is cool. Everyone's like, oh Naye, so cool. Naye's so cool. So you want to be the guy's girl, And I'm completely different now. I'm a girl's girl. I don't have time to be a guy's girl. And if a guy fucks with it, that's like fly.
I think you can hear it in the music.
It's completely. I am in my fantasy space. I am in my. I'm about me, like you fuck with me because you're obsessed with me type vibe. And it's not like, oh, I'm so G, you need me. It's just so different.
I hear that.
But all those phases, I think, are really important to go through. Oftentimes you see something that you like and you want to be that thing, but you're disrupting the process to get there. I feel like listen to every single stage of your voice and of your personality and of what kind of person you are in the spaces that you're engaging. I literally changed organically. I didn't make a decision at any point. I learned more. I met people who introduced me to a different side of music, and I explored that a little bit more with live music and instruments. And I was like, oh, like this is, the musicality was so beyond me. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? But that literally catapulted me to like newer spaces and newer ideas and
Okay, so you guys are in Brixton recording all of this music. Did you have a plan on how you're going to break into the industry? Because a lot of people are out there recording music in whatever room they're in, right? But people don't know how am I going to market this? How I'm gonna break into the industry. What was your plan?
At the time, like, I really wish I could say that, oh, we were these like smart kids who had like a serious plan or whatever, but I had never known anything about the industry.
Did you know anyone in the industry?
I didn't know a single person in the industry. I didn't have friends who made music.
Yeah.
I literally, that part of my life was me and Lozzie against the world. We didn't know people. We didn't have contacts. We didn't have people who shared the same interests or visions, music-wise, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a process of slowly meeting those people. I stayed at Labori, and everyone knew that I was the girl that made music, you know, and recorded and whatever. So slowly those networks started building. And one day, I don't remember how, I met this incredible producer named B1.
B1, okay.
Yeah. He used to produce for Tweezy at the time.
Okay.
And he was like, let's just get into studio, you know? And from...
Had you heard your music? Or...
I think that through a friend, we were hanging out, and I mentioned that I was a musician, and I think I played him some ideas or something. I vaguely remember. But we worked on something together. But from that moment, I realized that the only thing that I had was putting myself out there. Like, I can't get the thing I need if no one knows I exist.
Exactly.
So everywhere I went, I would let people know what I do.
Music.
I would play. I was that person who played people's songs like, well, do you want to hear this? I'd be playing it in your ear.
Now I'm there, I'm
you
like, dog, I want to take my tequila shot. Now this girl is playing
take your tequila shot down with my song.
And here,
there wasn't really any other way. I know we had Facebook at the time, but it just wasn't the same. And there was Instagram and stuff, but it wasn't like a space to push that hard. But I was using my Instagram. Like, I was known as the girl who sings. But at the time, everyone around you is just like, oh, yeah, Lona. You know, they're not like, she's. I think it was like 2 or 3 years later where even my family was like, oh, you're serious.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You know, everyone just always thought like, oh, I like to sing. But I was like, I'm chasing this dream. So I would just make it known everywhere I went that this is what I like to do. And when we released that EP, I started performing. I performed at any little thing. Any little thing. I've performed for 2 people. I've performed at an event where no one showed up, but my 3 friends were there, and I performed it for them like they've never seen it before. And slowly but surely, from those tiny performances, other little events would like hit me up and be like, oh, pull up, we're having a thing. And one prominent one at the time was Woke Arts in Pretoria.
In Pretoria,
So I performed at Woke Arts, and I feel like I was one of like the Woke Arts alumni. You know, like, you saw me at Woke Arts. And at Woke Arts, I met Una Rams, Tom Saison, Nami, and we would later become a band called Cartel. But after meeting Una, he introduced me to someone at YFM at the time who became our manager. And I was offered Live and Rewired.
Oh, that was on YFM, right?
Yeah. And I had never performed with a band before. And this was a 2-hour slot. So Una was like, oh, we've just formed a band, like, let's all play it together. So we rehearsed for the next 3 months for that slot, and we absolutely killed it. You know, it was so exhilarating. And that's when I fell in love with what would later become now my style of music, and live music, and more instrumentation and less of the subs and the 808s. It was, you know, and that is all because I made one decision to make one person know me. That one person knows someone else who knows someone else. I had nothing. That's all I had at the time. People saying, I know a girl, you know? And so whenever people ask me like, what do you think I should do? I want to start.
I don't know how to.
If you say that and I go on your page and there isn't one inkling towards the fact that you're an artist, that's probably what you should do. I just went on your page. I could have listened to a song.
But now,
I could have heard something.
there's nothing.
I might be like, oh, that's perfect for this. You just have to exist.
And put yourself out there.
Do you exist in the space that you're talking about? Can anyone find you? That's the first thing. I really think there are all these other things that we're chasing, but if you tell someone this is what you do and they look you up.
And you're live on Dead Radio. And you're live on Dead Radio.
And they can't find a trace of it. That's already a missed opportunity, true, you know? True, and true. So I think that was the biggest thing for me at the time. Like, I took advantage of every chance to let people know that, like, I want to be a musician.
I don't think a lot of up-and-coming artists are ready to have that conversation about, like, being prepared to perform in front of two people. Like, especially in, like, this cloud and aesthetic space that we're all existing in.
Yeah, you see, it's really different now. Because you can amass
a following
online and you're somebody. But you may not have really worked on the experience and your abilities in a live space.
Artist development.
Artist development does not exist. Do you know how to perform? Do you know how to improvise when you're performing? What if you forget your lyrics? What if it scratches?
True.
What if there's load shedding?
What if
you fall? What if people boo you? I've been booed.
Have you been booed?
I've been booed so hard.
How did you deal with that?
I kept singing. What am I going to do? I'm not going to get off stage. Who the fuck do you think you are? Like that, I would have to live with that. I would have to live with the defeat of that moment. I kept singing to the two people that made deep eye contact with me. The rest of you don't matter. Fair enough, I was completely misplaced at that event. I should not have been in the Val performing at 10 p.m. after a house set. Do you get all of, and those are other things as well, where you need like on the ground experience about what works and what doesn't work. And I kept singing, and when I kept singing, there were some people who I think felt like, shout out to her. And it's almost as if they were converted. They were upset about the curation. But as I went on, they were like, oh, she's actually cool. And that's the other thing about that. You cannot succumb to rejection. You can't. People don't know what they want. People don't know what's going on. They came to dance. Now they're being asked to like stop and listen. And they're
now
like,
you have to be centered.
Now they're upset, but then they realize that, oh, you're kind of cool. And now they want to know who you are. That was an opportunity that I could have missed if I got off that stage, because 5 people came to me and were like, hey girl, where do we find you? You know? So yeah, that's what we're missing.
Heart. I feel like a lot of people don't have heart, and I feel like you have a lot of heart. Like, because you put yourself out there. Like, it balances. Okay, so this project, you guys put it out. What's the immediate response from the world?
It was so crazy. We had nothing, not a dime. No online presence really. I was just a quirky girl who drank Black Label and just was lovable. Loved taking pictures, and so I think that worked for me with online. I had an online personality that already drew people in. So when I was saying I'm a musician, those people were like, "Oh, cool. Let's go with it. Love you." You know. And so we put this out, and it just. I immediately got radio play. 4 of my songs were circulating on YFM. 2 of my songs were charting. It was a world that I didn't really understand. I was just like, what's going on?
How did that feel, from taking something from your mind, recording it, putting it out in the world, and now it's on radio? Like,
unreal. And confusing. You're just like, oh my God. what's actually happening. But then also just like, what do I need to do now? Like, what's the next step? This is where the education started coming in for me, because you're on radio. How do you get your money?
So you didn't know about SAMRO?
Nothing. I don't know anything. I'm on radio, I'm getting radio play. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get paid, but where am I getting this money from? How do they know it's my song? I had these questions. I was just like, oh, okay, but how do they know it's linked to me every time it plays? And I had to start asking questions. And I had friends who were at ASE.
Okay.
And someone borrowed me Academy of Sound Engineering. At SABC. And at the time, we were also recording a lot at SABC because I had friends who were at that school.
So you had access to
and these conversations as well with the kids who were in a sort of music school, you know. And so a friend of mine borrowed me his music. There's that music business and law book that goes around. And
I've seen that online.
Started reading a little bit of that. Get that book. Please. Started reading a little bit on that, asking questions, Googling things. I went down to SAMRO. I didn't know what I was there to do, but I knew if I spoke to someone, they'd tell me what I gotta do. Registered my songs and started understanding that, okay, I need to register at SAMRO, and that is how they make I need an ISRC number. That was the first thing I needed to understand.
What is that?
So essentially, it's like a code of some sort that is attached to your song and to your, how can I say, like your profile on these platforms. And that is how the connection will be made between your artist name and your music being distributed in certain, on radio, on television programs. That's how they track your music, essentially.
So it's a barcode, basically.
Essentially, So every time my song plays, that code comes up, and therefore that link is made with my profile as an artist.
And then the money goes into the piggy bank.
So you needed an ISRC number. You needed to go to RISA. You needed to go to SAMRO.
What's the difference between SAMRO and RISA?
So, if I understand correctly, so SAMRO does your radio royalties, your royalties overall. I think your royalties distribution.
South African Music Rights
Organization. RISA.
Recording something.
Yes. So I think RISA has more to do with. I could be so wrong here. Like your splits and stuff, and the mechanics of it. But there's also SAMPRA. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it gets like really confusing even to me now. But they deal with your splits, the mechanic rights, like who is the author, who is the composer, and making sure that everybody who's involved in the project is getting paid and is getting like their recognition. And then there's Capasso, which I think handles performance rights. So
that's a lot for like a young artist to be having to deal with all of that, or rather to understand it. But everyone needs to understand it, right? Because that's how artists get robbed. Because you don't understand. So since you had a manager at that time, was he not the bridge between you and the information that you didn't have?
He was. He was helping a lot. Like, he was lovely. And he introduced us to a lot. And taught us a lot about the things that we didn't know. And
had he managed someone before?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I was so young. I didn't ask enough questions about his past, but he seemed great and he was lovely. He got me playlisting. He got me on radio and tiny little gigs. You know, he got me little interviews like with Skipani. You know, but then I left his management to go to my next manager just because I felt like he was busy and he couldn't do more.
Was he still working at YFM at the same time and managing?
And he was managing Una as well. You know, it was just like a a really cordial sort of like moving on. I've gotten this other opportunity to be managed by this other person.
Okay.
Will you release me?
That's fair.
And he released me.
That's fair.
Good vibes, you know. Only for me to walk into the most hellish relationship of my life.
Oh no. Oh no.
So my new manager sent me an email.
Okay.
Expressing interest in working with me and interest in the music that I had created, which was essentially Exist. And yeah, a desire to work with me, some of his past, like people that he's worked with, some of his past work, people that he's currently working with. And he was just like, can we meet? Can we talk about it in person and just see how we feel about it? And so I agreed. And we met up and the conversation went well.
Okay.
It was lovely. He seemed really genuine and I was looking for anyone who was going to like help me figure out how to make my next moves.
Yeah, the next move.
And him expressing interest in me felt really right. Like it wasn't something that I had seeked out. So he wanted me because he liked my music and he liked my art and he saw where I was going with it.
So you're like, that
Let's
only
go.
makes sense.
Yeah. We sign our contract. It's going really well. A few gigs here and there. We're talking, making plans. You know, you need to have a shoot. You need to do this. You need to create an artist profile. You need to start working on your social media or your Instagram specifically at the time. I get small gigs here and there. And it's going okay, you know. There are things where I feel that the alignment wasn't there.
Between you and this individual?
No, between his ideas and what kind of artist I actually was.
Okay.
You know, and I also think that especially at the time in a South African context, it was very difficult to place a girl who just wanted to be a dreamy little musician and like just like on a
Disney.
it's just like, you know. And so I did a lot of gigs that didn't make sense for me, like the one I'm explaining in Val. And we had another one in the Northwest. I was in clubs, you know. I'm just,
it didn't make sense.
I'm not really that
music.
person. Like even outside of my career, I've been in a club 3 times in my life. Like it's just not really like my scene. And so I don't feel that my placement was very good. And I do think that started to create some tension. But the biggest thing is that I don't think that he actually believed in the kind of music I was making. I think he saw me make certain moves and thought, I can make her big and become big. Okay. You know? And it's a big problem for me because we're no longer nurturing the art and the possibilities of what my music could become in that relationship had now been threatened by your desperation.
Okay.
You know?
Do you think, I'm listening to you, do you think that he was looking at the South African market and viewing or perceiving the fact that becoming a successful alternative artist in South Africa, especially at that time, was damn near impossible? Like, because where would you fit? Yeah, where do you fit? Like in the grand scheme of the music industry.
I can't really speak to what he must have been thinking, but I do think that it was short-sighted. So it was about now. I mean, we got some really cool things. Like I did one of the first few episodes of Feel Good series by Mama Gashaga when it was still at One Elof. Things like that. But I would have to tell him about the things I'm interested in. Oh, I want to do Feel Good series. I want to do, you know, so that he could look into them and contact these people. But there were some really incredible milestones like that event. But there were things like at that event where I arrive with my 3 friends and my friends can't get in because he's filled up my guest list. By the time I'm inside, he's drank my stock. My rider, he says he'll replace it. And it was like, I don't really know what's going on here. Like, alarm bells were ringing, you know, and this was compounding on just being misaligned with the gigs that were being chosen for me, having your friends at things. I mean, even the one where we went to Northwest, there was only one hotel room available, which was mine, and there were like 12 people. And so after the gig, and I mean, the gig went great. Like, if I have to perform, I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah,
but we were in a club, and it was just a lot, you know. And when we got back to the hotel, we all just had to chill in my hotel room and stay up till we left because no one else had.
Where are you going to sleep? How are you going to sleep?
But who are all these people?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So those 12 people, majority of them
One was my friend.
So 11 people.
I didn't know them.
That's crazy.
And that's the thing about like being really young and having people who've been in the game come for you.
Yeah.
They know they can do pretty much anything, and you're gonna be like, but this is the journey.
I have to go through this.
This is the journey. This is the journey. I'm gonna become somebody.
Yeah.
And so I started to pick up that there were, you know, some problems, and there was a period where he disappeared for like 3 or 4 months. Emails were bouncing, phone calls were going to voicemail, nothing. And I was like, I'm done with this shit, you know? And I hadn't been paid for a gig, and he'd also borrowed some money from me. And when he came back, I was like, I'm leaving. And he was like, if you want to leave, you better record an album with us. Otherwise, we can't let you go. And I was like, you're not a record label. And that's not our agreement. And he was like, you know, he's going to take me for every cent I have. I better sleep with one eye open. And our relationship became very... Toxic.
Like,
yeah, there was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of drama. I was bullied on social media at the time.
Because of this individual.
Yeah, he released a statement saying I owed him 50K and he was suing me. And so he sued me, and people were bullying me, say pay the money back, tagging brands that I had expressed wanting to work with or that I was going to be working with, like Red Bull at the time. And it was just a lot. He released a press statement about me through City Press at the time or something that Red Bull got while I was there. And they were just like, we don't want to be involved in this drama, but we'll believe you, we'll back you. It was a mess. And we had to...
Shout out to Red Bull for that, because a lot of brands would have been like, we don't want to have to deal with all of this.
Yeah, like imagine. And I'd been working on that opportunity for so many months. And, you know, it court interdicts. Now we're going back and forth. He's going to sue me. In my Twitter, always blowing up every day. People like bullying me. I got some lawyers. And after like maybe it was almost a year of just that, we were able to squash it and get him out of my life. Another thing about it was the contract was under American law. And so it was never valid in South Africa.
Crazy.
Which is also insane. So you really need to be aware of scammers.
And what you put your name on.
What you're signing.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's really important to listen to your gut.
Yeah.
If it feels wrong, it is wrong. Even if it's not revealing how just yet, that feeling will not go away.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any better. And so while it was a really traumatizing experience, like I was very depressed and sad and confused and just, I felt like I just want to be a musician. Like,
what's all this other stuff?
I learned a lot about owning my music, getting into relationships with people, the things that I'm signing. I learned what an option, that was the time where I learned what an option is, because my contract had an option. It had 2 options, which meant that he could renew my contract against my will twice. So instead of 2 years, it could be 6, whether I liked it or not, because I signed.
How's that even...
Okay, record labels do options.
There's a perception that the people behind the scenes in the music industry are... I don't even know what word to use, but it's like, it's just perceived as a very dark industry to enter because you will get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Like, how's that even possible? How can he renew your contract without your say.
I signed. So I gave my say. Do you know what I mean? And that's the danger, is that you are signing some of these decisions away. And so it's really, really important to take those contracts and to give them to someone who can help you, someone who can read them, someone who can refer you to someone else who can help you read those contracts. And don't be in a hurry. I think the biggest thing about signing a contract is that you're in a hurry because you feel like this opportunity could slip if you take your time. But if that thing doesn't stay in the week that you have to review the contract, best believe that was not going to be good and it was not going to work out for you. They were trying to say like something wasn't right, because if someone wants to work with you, they will stay the course until you are ready, you are happy, you've signed, you're good with everything, you know. So I think sometimes when you want something really bad, desperation really clouds your decision making and your pacing in making certain decisions. But I learned a lot, and I don't regret anything. Yeah, I think especially after that relationship, I became very savvy. And
with
just
the business.
With the business, being keen to learn and aware of the fact that there's a lot that I don't know. And even as I know more, I still don't know what I don't know. You know, so just always be listening, always be asking questions, always take an interest in how these things are coming together for you. How did you get there? What was the conversation? Who agreed to that? What are you getting for doing it? What are you giving for being there? Like, ask the questions. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be like, oh no, that's silly. Ask the question.
And I do feel like as a creative person or as an artist, a lot of individuals in that space feel like I'm so good at creating art that I don't need to understand the analytical side of the business. But that's why that loop of an artist being scammed, it will never close. Because unfortunately or fortunately, you have to understand the business you're in.
And this isn't even, you know, just to artists, musicians, creatives. Anyone who wants to create something or be a part of something like that, you have to know.
You have to understand
how it's coming together. You know, even if you aren't the person who is in charge of having these conversations, you have to know what kind of conversation is being had in the first place. And I think a lot of artists, when aspiring to be artists, just aspired to like that immediate picture, the dream. Oh, I arrive and I'm this egg. Everyone is catering to me and I'm a superstar. And oh yeah, someone else booked that. Because that's also part of that image, that lifestyle, that people are at your beck and call, and that you're this precious superstar who doesn't have to know how to do anything.
But that's when they
and if that's what you really want, like, shout out, do your thing, but be someone who knows what the people who are doing those things are doing. You know, you know what your manager, you know what conversations he's had with people about the splits. You know where the money is going. You know what account it's going into, because these people, artists are always the last person to touch the money that they made. And it boggles my mind. It's like having a day job and your employer pays your money to your landlord. Then your landlord takes their bid, sends the rest to your service provider. They take their bid, they send the rest to this person and that, and then they say, here you go. That's an artist's life. That's like crazy, you know? And I get that system is much bigger than us, but you need to take charge where you can take charge, to the point where you know that the person handling your money is someone you absolutely trust. Because you have transparency. You know what they're doing. You can see all the transactions. It's really nice to be a superstar, but it's much nicer to not be robbed, you know, and to know what the fuck is going on, and to know how to write a pitch deck, and to know how to negotiate in a boardroom, and to know how to express your value proposition. If you are in a label meeting, you need to be able to be like, no, I'm not sure about that. Here's what I bring. Here's what I've created. This is my leverage. This is what I've been able to do on my own. The thing that you're giving me has to be more than what I've been able to create prior to this meeting, you know? And that doesn't take away from your stardom.
Yeah.
It just gives you so much more control over your product and over your career. So
guys, please learn your industry, please, because we're tired of going on Twitter and a new artist is complaining about this, and I understand, I get it, but please guys, like, do your part. At least do your part.
do what you can.
Okay, so now you've gone through this traumatic relationship with this individual who will not be named, no clout for you. What happens next? How do you pull yourself out of this space, or do you even pull yourself out of this space?
100%. Like, life goes on, you know. I think also I'd just been so stuck in this situation for so long that I was ready to be out of it. And as soon as I was out of it, I started making music again. I was performing a lot at that time. So I started aligning with events that felt a little bit more like me.
Your style,
And even though I was self-managing, like, I was just doing what I've always done, putting myself out there. I was a part of, I don't know if you guys know, like, the Brum community back then, when there were all the pop-up stores and unicorns, swank. There were fashion shows at the Hive, the first Hive, not the one that was where that jazz bar was. The first Hive, which was more up the road in that huge, like, white building on the inside. We were in the streets of Brum. We would host fashion shows. We would work together. It was just a bunch of creatives, you know, always doing stuff. And through that, I did Live and Rewind again. I did Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week performing.
No, don't worry, that's for me.
I did Live and Rewind, I did Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, I did events like that. Like, I was starting to align with my purpose. We filmed a short film for one of my friends, which took us like 3 months. We wrote the music, wrote the scripts, like, we were really getting our creativity in, you know? And so it really didn't stop me, it just taught me a lot.
Was that period where you started understanding the mechanical side of events? Is that the way that,
perhaps subconsciously, without realizing that I was learning how to, like, put on my own things, but I do think that was starting. And then as my time went by, I would spend a lot of time at, I just said it?
The Hive.
The Hive, yes. I don't actually remember how anymore, but I met a guy named Tuko. And he also just, like, really, really believed in me. And so we would strategize. At first, he started helping me with strat. What are your ideas? What do you want to do? And so I started putting on solo shows. And it's actually so crazy to just put on a solo show.
Self-funded?
Yeah.
Like,
do you know how insane it is to put on a solo show? Like, just come watch me and only me. It's insane. But we started putting on the solo shows. And at the time, we called that series Comfortable. And I did two comfortables, I think, between 2015 and 2017. And I was performing all over the place, and I was writing music, and I was also performing music. I was performing a lot with the band, Culture Cartel. So we were in Pretoria a lot. We were looking for gigs as a band, and we were appearing as a band, and we were making a lot of music. I was around, like, instrumentalists now, and so the way that I was thinking and writing was completely different. And I think this is, like, a big thing for me. Allow yourself to expand. Allow yourself to change. You know, everything you were before this, it still exists. It still exists. I've gone through so many ego deaths.
Those are very important.
Because now I'm in a space in my career surrounded by absolutely phenomenal musicians. People who are so talented, who play 6 instruments, and I feel so inadequate. I am just like, I feel so challenged. We're in rehearsals and they're going, okay, we're going to go from the 1 to the 5th. Okay, and I'm like,
What?
I don't know. And when they say to me, okay, what song are we doing? I tell them this song. I don't know what key it's in. I didn't know shit. I didn't know shit, but I loved being there so much. And it didn't matter also. Like, I had to realize that the only thing limiting was my beliefs about what these differences mean. I don't know what the 1 to the 2 is, but I can hear it. I made this music. I wrote it. We're you know, changing this music to a live iteration together. I'm here. I can sing it. If you go da, I can go da. You know. So I don't have the theory.
Now it's practical.
I can sing this with you. So let's go. Let's work with what we have. And I mean, ever since then, I've just learned so much. You know, and live music, I think, really saved me. And after everything I'd been through, because it gave me like a new life, and I was really open to that. And so we do the solo shows, we do Culture Cartel, and then Culture Cartel starts to become like kind of unsustainable. We live far from each other, we're students, and we're all solo artists as well. So we start really needing to focus on our careers, but we're still there for each other and perform backup for each other, which was like really cool still, you know. So now fast forward to what, like 2018 or something, I'm recording new music, and the first EP that I dropped, I think, was 2016. So maybe now this is like 2019. I am starting to conceptualize every feeling. And we've done a lot.
The intro song.
Wow. My favorite.
I love that song.
Thank you.
It's so good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Before Every Feeling was actually my most popular song, the song that's done the best. It's called Mercury.
Okay.
So I met a guy named Yours Truly. He found me on the internet. He sent me something, I really liked it, and we just continued working together. And he sent me this beat, and I remember being at school and I couldn't study, so I just started writing to Mercury, and I loved it, and we released it. And it did well. It was cute, it was so good, and I was like, oh yeah, this was my soft girl era. I was officially just like singing. I wasn't really rapping anymore. I was in my R&B bag, and I met a lady named Lusanda, and she is a film director, and she wanted to shoot for it. So we conceptualized, and I had done one music video prior
Before
to this that I kind of thought up and directed and filmed with some friends. And now this director's got this vision, and the idea was that this woman has been sent to assassinate this man. And when she gets there, something happens, and they like fall in love after spending time together, but she kills him anyway. And the message we were going for is that society believes that women can't operate on logic because they're emotional. Like, we can't make decisions, we can't stick to the things we want to do, but the strength in women is that even with our emotions, we're able to make the decisions that we need to make for what we need to do, you know. And taking this romantic context where the song could have been about this guy, but it's also about me to me. And we made that video, and it's beautiful. To this day, it's like one of my favorite things ever, you know. So now I've got this like hype, this vibe, people love this stuff. I'm performing a lot, you know, I'm doing radio interviews, I'm in music.
Now you're in the industry, like you're inside
the industry. Like, this is what I do. I graduate and I start working as a behavioral therapist. But I'm still making music.
Once again, you're balancing these two things.
And life is balanced.
It is.
And I'm also so happy for those experiences, because I don't know if it would have been enough for me not to have my fingers in other jars. Now that I'm older, I really, really love that I operated that way, because I'm extra like that now. I just have so many other interests, and that's not a jarring feeling for me, because I've always been like that. So I start recording my next EP, and then it is COVID.
No one could have predicted that.
And you know, before COVID, I was on my rise. I swear to God, I was on the up, like things were booming. I was that next girl. I mean, platforms like OK Africa had named me top 10
Rising stars.
Yeah, like I was in my bag, you know, and COVID really hit me hard, like mentally. Like I didn't know where to place myself in the new world for a while. But during COVID, I wrote that first song on the EP called I Don't Know Why.
I Don't Know Why.
And at the time, I was back to making music like I did when I was in Varsity, where I would record into a phone, record into another phone, record into a laptop, and create like harmonies and make boom, 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 make sounds with my mouth and kind of create an idea that a producer could help me with. Then I would send that, and then they'd send something back, and then they'd send something back.
I want to say something quickly. The two EPs, right, exist. When I listen to it, I understand. I feel like you were in your super experimental phase, trying to figure out your sound. And then with your second EP, I feel like you had like crystallized it. It sounds like that to me. Like even the music sounds more focused, more, crystallized. It just sounds like when you were making that, you were like, okay, this is who I am.
This is me.
And you're live on Dead Radio.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I know you would love to have this bag. This bag. Well, here's your chance to win it. Here's how to win. Step 1. Join and become a member by clicking the link in the description below. Step 2. Comment under this video. Step 3. Relax. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put all the members into a raffle, assign a number to each of those members, and then to make sure that we're not scamming you, we're going to use Google Number Generator to pick a winner. I know you want this bag.
And you're live on Dead Radio.
It did feel like that. Even though the process was so spread out between starting before COVID, having to do it during COVID, and then finish it up once we got out a little bit, once we were a bit free. It did feel like I was writing for me. Like I said, I'd been introduced to live music and the value of live instrumentation and making music like that and writing to just a piano loop, you know, and I play a little guitar, so I would like play very simple notes and write like that while I was at home. And so I really feel like I got to come into my voice. And I've always been like a co-producer, like a vocal producer, like, okay, I need this, I hear this. I just couldn't do it myself, but it's always been sort of my direction. We need this sound, we need the pattern to go like this, we need the rhythm to be this way. And so the people that I was working with on that EP were really open to exactly how I wanted things to go, you know, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. We wrapped up the EP a while after COVID had started, and then we released it, you know, and it did so good. It had like 22,000 streams in the first week. Like it was so
great.
Good.
Once again, like super organically, like you just put it out.
I mean,
you're the organic girl. Like, that's crazy. Like,
my friend, there's these amazing guys who just wanted to shoot with me, so we did like a little shoot in the park, and their images were amazing. So I was like, I'm gonna use your images, you know, are you happy with that? And that was the cover. My friend Ty helped me create the design, and I submitted. And at the time I was with Africori. So I submitted from Mercury. I was with Africori. I submitted, and it was smooth. And by this time I understand registering and just preparing all of that admin, you know. And that came out, and it was great. And I started performing, and after that, Mercury hit the roof. You know, it's on like, I don't know, like almost 300,000 streams.
It is. I saw it today.
You know, and I was like, okay, I'm still in the game. And so,
So you put that project out, and then what happens next for you, like creatively? Is that where you start, like now branching off into events, creative direction?
Kind of. So I've always basically been creative directing
for yourself,
my own stuff. And I was like, okay, I really enjoy this. I really like this. So that happens. Now I'm making more music, you know, and I'm performing, and I'm just trying to connect the dots.
Yeah.
I moved to Randburg. What was happening at the time? Just kind of gone blank. All I know is that I'm really working on music. I haven't started doing any eventing or anything like that. I'm just purely in the music, and I was working as a behavioral therapist still, but then I quit that job. It had all become too much for me. It was like really exhausting. Yeah, I couldn't balance them, and the job was very emotionally and physically demanding. And so I felt like, oh, I can't really like do this, you know. So I focus on making the music, and then I'm performing, doing all that good stuff. I'm doing feature shows on SABC1, Mikasi Sukasi, Daily Teta, all of these different like really cool things, YouTube series, interviews here and there, collaborating with a lot of artists. We're in and out of studio, writing for other artists, like just fully doing this thing, you know. And I met up with Slick, DJ Slick, somewhere in that timeline, and we worked together, and I have 2 songs on his Injayam Volume 2, which was summer nominated, which then made me summer nominated. You know, so there were just like all these like different things. We're doing radio tours, we're just doing cool things. And then in 2022, I lost my voice.
Another moment.
This has been my most recent ego death. And I feel like I've had to know how to come out of so many different things. You know, it was a situation in my personal life where I had to leave school and leave my apartment and go home and figure out what to do for the next year. And then it was having this shitty manager who disrupted my life for a year. And then it was COVID, when I felt like I was on my rise. And then things get really good again. And then my voice like completely disappears one day.
How did that happen?
So I had been experiencing like a husk. Just I'd wake up every morning, was really husky, and I was like, oh, why is this happening?
From lifestyle choices, obviously.
I guess at the time, I've always had like the kind of voice where if I swim, I lose my voice. If I'm cold, I lose my voice. If I'm up outside too late, my voice gets a bit fragile. So I've always been like that. So I was like, oh, that's what's happening, you know? And we're at a saison one day, and my friends invite me on stage to sing our song. And also in this time we've released No Way, we've released Bad Ting. So we're performing Bad Ting a lot everywhere. And I go up and I sing, and I'm like, oh, my voice is kind of gone, but I'm gonna sing. And after singing that song, my voice was gone, and it didn't come back for like 3 weeks. And even when it did come back, it was just broken and scratchy and husky. And that was my life for the next 10 months. So until right before 2023. And we discovered that the reason, I have gastritis. And so acid reflux.
Is that what ruined your voice? Sleeping
flat, like it would come up every night and burn my vocal cords. And so that's what was happening. And I had to sort of like, so before getting to the point where I discovered that and I knew what to do, I was just super depressed. And again, this took another 6 months of my life.
Because that's your gift. Now you're like, okay, this thing that I love.
Who am I? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? Do I have to reimagine my whole life? Does everyone think I'm talentless right now because I can't sing? Have they always felt this way about me? Am I the only person who's feeling like this? Like, it really damages your sense of self, your confidence, the way that you relate to others. I would go into studio sessions where I thought I felt fine, and I would sing for like 3 minutes, and I'm cracking, and I can't get the note, and I can't really like send the message, you know, and it really started to weigh on me and the way that I related with like other musicians. And I was a little bit depressed for a couple of months. And then at the end of 2022, I decided that I would start 2023 with like a lifestyle change, cut out alcohol, cut out fizzy drinks, get on my fitness, alkaline diets, just try to like reverse what was happening in my body. And I basically spent most of 2023 healing.
Your voice, yeah.
Healing my voice, healing my body, healing my insecurities, healing the way that I felt about myself, the way that I related to people, rediscovering who and throughout this time, like before this started, I'd started producing. I was like, I need to teach, what's next? I need to teach myself the skill. I need to be able to come up with my own ideas. I need to understand how to mix. I need to understand different doors as well. So I started on Fruity Loops, and then I moved to Logic, and I can use both now. But I just wanted to be a more active part of my own journey, you know, to say I can do all the things that I get people to do for me.
Instead of waiting to send the music to someone else.
All the time. I want to understand the business. I want to understand the admin. I want to understand the production, you know. So I had started doing that. And so in the midst of all of this, I would just practice my producing. I'll be back one day. I'll be back one day. I barely believed that as well. Like I didn't know if my voice would ever return. And looking back now, I realized that my whole year last year was like just trying to survive and like trying to get back and asking myself if I should quit. Like, is this the end of the line? Like, why am I still doing this? Will my voice ever return? And it started to return, and it was weaker, and it felt different. Like, it may not sound different to everyone, but the way that it works internally, like I will be trying to do that note and it does a different note. And I'm like, why won't you do the thing I need you to do? Like, this is how we used to do it, you know? So it felt like having to relearn my voice and how to sing in my own way, and working on all of the damage that did for my confidence, you know, with people and being able to show up. Will I go to a studio and be embarrassed? And I mean, to this day, I still cry a little before every studio session. I have so much anxiety about studio because the texture of my voice is also ruined. So my high register has this like permanent husk, like a right at the top of like everything I sing. If I'm singing in a high, so it's just there. And in studio on that mic, you can hear it. You can hear it, And so I'm always just the angst, you know. But I've just decided to be grand and to do what I can. And so at the end of last year, I put on a solo show after like 3 years. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Who's gonna come? I've been so out of the game. Do I know how to sing? Will my voice not let me down? Do the people I'm working with, are they just doing this because they're just like, this is another gig? And they're like, oh, I don't, like, can I hear myself? Like, I don't even
all
really...
these things in your head.
Is it just me? Do I believe I'm better? Like, can you guys hear that, you know? I just had to fight through so many things. And so I did something that we call The Concept at Untitled Basement last year. And the idea is that I create a conceptual experience, which was another way to explore my creativity by building a set for myself. And I did the solo show and I smashed it. And I couldn't believe that my voice could do that, actually. Like, I was so blown away by myself, and so were the people. But even through all of this that I was struggling with on a personal level, I was forced to explore so many other things, which is when I really started getting into eventing, working with my friends at Says on Sundays, and, you know, putting those on and learning how to create an experience for artists that I would want for myself. And, you know, putting on the production and the work that it takes all of the weeks leading up to the event. And I got into social media, I got into marketing, I started getting in my design bag. I just started exploring so much creatively, you know, that that space allowed for me, but it was just such an incredibly difficult, yet another ego death.
Yeah.
This is like my most recent and my biggest ego death because it was about me and just me.
Yeah.
Like I lost the one thing I've been able to do my entire life.
Because everything else was outside of you.
Yeah.
And this one was like directly you. Sometimes in life, I feel like you have to break to come back together. Even bigger. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But it's the process of life.
It is the process of life, and the other side is it tends to be beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But it just sucks that you have to go through stuff like that, you know. And when you're going through it, you really feel like, why me? It's always me. It's always me. It's always me. I even have anxiety now about like, now I'm going to get into a really good place and something else is going to have to happen to me that I have to work through. You know, it's just this
life
endless.
Life is literally highs and lows.
Fucking hell.
And if you can't accept that, life will break you. If you can't accept that.
Oh,
it's
count
tough.
me out, yeah. I do get it though, and I really do appreciate the process. And I think the most important thing that you could probably ever pray for or wish for yourself is the ability to move forward and the ability to move on, and also having the mind to think, what is this situation teaching me? And in all of these times and spaces where it did this, it was an opportunity to upskill. And it was an opportunity to look at other things because that is the only way I think a lot of people will truly be fulfilled, by knowing that they can do something else if they can't do this. You know, and so that's my biggest takeaway. Do not limit yourself.
Don't limit yourself.
And when you're low, look around. Look around. There are things around you that you can use.
To pick yourself up. So it's a brand new year, 2024. What can we expect?
I literally have so much music that I created during the period where I couldn't sing. When I listen to those demos, I want to throw up because they were like, they're just so bad. But I was like, I'm going to sing this song, you know? So I have like 3 EPs.
Stacked right now, ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just mixing and mastering, re-recording some broken vocals, that kind of stuff. But the possibility is that one of those will actually just become an album that I've started working on low-key. But I plan on releasing soon. Like right now, we're mixing and mastering something that I want to submit, hopefully in the next month or 2 months. I had already, like I spent last year just shooting a bunch of content and a bunch of covers for one day when I can sing. So it's just piecing all of those things together now and figuring out how I want to represent myself now as a new person. And also I think moving on, like I even want this to be the last time I speak about my voice.
I hear that.
Like
it happened.
I'm done. It happened. I made a post about it. I let everybody know. I just don't want to be the person who's like, if I croak tonight, just know it's because I just want to let it go. And if I do croak, I do. This is the voice I got now, you know? So, it's just like being more that music. Person, more music, more collaborations, figuring out what kind of property I also want to create around my music. I think as an artist, if you have the capacity, you should create a property.
Are we signing to a major anytime?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. No, I don't. I don't think so. Yeah.
It's not for you.
It's not.
Do you feel like they change who you are, or they would try?
They'd probably try, but
like,
I'm not completely against it, right? I feel like if I was approached with something that I believe absolutely made sense, I would never say no to an opportunity to be like backed by resources like that. If anything, I am hoping and praying for some kind of resources, you know, to do things on a bigger scale. But I'm also just focusing on putting myself out there in a different way, getting overseas publishing, you know, getting overseas management so I can start doing small tours, bar tours that side, you know, like really just expanding my horizons. That is my main focus. I feel like anything that will push me up will find me in motion. That's my biggest thing. I just need to be in motion. I can't stop and look for a record label. If a record label finds me, it's because I was already performing in Berlin. Do you know what I mean? That's really like my focus right now.
Motion is everything.
Yeah.
Don't worry about everything else. Create your motion, keep it moving, and whatever needs to come to you will come to you.
100%.
Okay. And with the last thing, I want you to look into the camera and give your last bit of advice to anyone out there who's trying to navigate the creative world, navigate the music industry, young boy, young girl, who has a voice or who can write songs and is like, oh, where do I begin? Or how do I do this?
I think the first thing is something that I've already touched on. It's really important to just start. Just start, have something. You need to have things ready. You know, if you were sitting next to someone and you were like, oh, I just want to be a musician, and that happened to be the CEO of Warner, would you have your song ready? If you're speaking about it, make sure you have it. You can present it, you know. So start, put it on your Instagram, put it on your Twitter. If you know how to create a website, do it. If you have a friend who knows how to, just start. And my second is, don't take advice from a lot of people. Like, even my advice, take it with a pinch of salt. Too much advice might derail you from your own greatness. Your ideas are real and they're probably fantastic. And so if you feel strongly about something, the best thing is to follow that feeling, and everyone else will find you on the way. That's what I believe.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dead Radio. We'll be back again. And comment, like, subscribe, and yeah. Taylor Swift, come to the show.
And you're live on Dead Radio.